They mocked him before they even knew his name. To the Galactic Coalition, humanity was a footnote in the annals of interstellar conquest, a primitive species clinging to outdated warfare and obsolete values. The war, if it could be called that, was more of a cleanup operation. One by one, the outer colonies had fallen. Earth itself had gone dark. The few human resistance cells scattered across burned planets were dismissed as embers refusing to die. Their weapons were chemical. Their tactics were chaotic. Their pride? Pathetic. On the outer rim of Sector 17K, laughter echoed through the humid air of a forward operating base. Zarnathi infantrymen, 8-limbed, plated, and overly proud, passed around a screen replaying footage from a recent training simulation. In it, a human sniper attempted to line up a shot. The camera zoomed on his optics, analog, magnify glass, as a thermal overlay showed how exposed he truly was. A beam from an alien drone seared across the screen. The human crumpled. A burst of harsh, insectoid laughter filled the tent. They aimed through tubes, hissed Commander Varnox, wrapping his armored fingers around a nutrient flask. Metal tubes, as if the wind obeys their will. They think themselves hunters, replied one of his lieutenants, the ridges of his face rippling in amusement. But they're prey, blind prey. Sniper warfare, in their doctrine, was an extinct practice. Too slow, too unreliable. The Coalition preferred orbital strikes, drone scouts, and swarm tactics. Their neural sync targeting systems connected entire platoons. Speed and saturation, that was the alien way. But something had begun disrupting their certainty. It started with whispers. Patrols lost contact near the ruins of Gala 3. Not unusual. Radiation storms often scrambled signals. Then came the silence of an entire outpost on the dunes of Miraxis. No explosion, no transmission, just stillness. What finally drew attention was the discovery of one particular body. Italic war chief, armor intact, helmet breached. A perfect hole through the visor. No energy signature. No plasma residue. Just lead. The Coalition dismissed it as an anomaly, maybe even sabotage, until it happened again. And again. Within a month, 17 Coalition officers were dead. No signs of struggle, no breach perimeters, just corpses lying in open fields or watchtowers, each killed by a single supersonic projectile. No trails. No witnesses. No drones caught any movement. There was an uncomfortable realization spreading among the higher ranks. Someone was out there. Someone with terrifying precision. Inside the orbiting Coalition Dreadnought Ascendancy Prime, strategist Ikril paced a command bridge. She had seen wars collapse because of shadows like this. It didn't matter if the death toll was low. What mattered was fear. Fear spread like infection, faster than light. "This is psychological warfare," she muttered, voice clicking through her translator. "One man or one weapon. Sowing panic. Have we identified the source?" "Negative," replied the surveillance officer. "No heat signatures. No comms intercepts. No electronic footprint. Whoever it is, they operate like a ghost." That word, ghost, began circulating on encrypted channels. Field units began refusing assignments near the dead zone in Sector 17K. Even hardened mercenary units requested redeployment. When pressed, they cited the same fear, the sensation of being watched, of feeling exposed even in cover. It wasn't that the kills were high in number. It was that they were surgical, purposeful, almost personal. Varnox didn't believe in ghosts. He requested to personally lead a team into the zone, confident in his own elite training. His squad was equipped with anti-sniper drones, atmospheric sensors, and full-spectrum surveillance gear. They didn't make it back. The drones never launched. The sensors detected nothing. And Varnox's last recorded words, sent moments before the connection died, were strangely calm. "I see the glint." No context. No explanation. Just that and silence. When the Coalition retrieved what was left of the squad, they found the bodies carefully arranged in a circle. Each one had been hit once. Cleanly. From different angles. Varnox's helmet had been removed. Set gently beside him, a shell casing rested in his open hand, engraved with alien glyphs that read, "Next." That was the first message. From orbit, the coalition doubled surveillance across the planet. Every anomaly, every motion, every heat bloom was tracked. Yet the sniper, the ghost, left no trace. He moved with the patience of stone. He struck with the finality of thunder, and he vanished like smoke. The troops began giving him names. Wraith of Windspire, the One-Eyed God, Ghost of the Wastes. No one knew his face. No one had seen the rifle. Some claimed he was an AI from Earth's fallen cities. Others whispered he was the last human sniper, awakened from cryosleep when the war reached its bitter end. The theories varied, but the results did not. Death came at a distance, swift, silent, surgical. Inside a bunker near the forward line, a young alien soldier trembled as he cleaned his weapon. His superior barked at him, but he didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the shattered window, facing the hills. "What are you staring at?" snapped the officer. I thought I saw a shimmer," the soldier whispered. "There's nothing out there. Get back to—" A sudden metallic clink echoed in the room. Both froze. Lying on the floor between them was a single shell casing. No sound of entry. No open door. Just the casing, still warm. The sniper had begun playing with them. Far away, on a wind-blown ridge overlooking the valley, Kale Maddox adjusted the scope of his rifle. His breath was slow, steady, shaped by decades of discipline. He didn't need drones or satellites. Just line of sight, wind calculations, and patience measured in hours. He didn't hate them. Not really. But he remembered the cities they burned. The screams under alien fire. He remembered Earth. As the next patrol moved into the kill zone, Kale slid around into the chamber. The soft click was drowned by the wind. They never heard the shot. Rain whispered against rusted steel as Kale Maddox lay prone atop a collapsed spire, his breath slow, even unhurried. The city ruins stretched before him like a carcass. Broken walls, splintered towers, all drowned beneath ash-gray skies. The only movement came from the patrol creeping through the valley below, unaware they were already within his reach. He watched them through the scope. Alien forms armored in polished synth metal, their legs jointed backwards, their heads cocking nervously at each gust of wind. 7 targets. He could take 3 before they'd react. Maybe 4 the officer didn't duck. But Kale wasn't here for numbers. He was here for silence, for precision. His finger rested against the trigger. Not yet. To the Coalition, he was a phantom. To Earth Command, he was a classified asset pulled from cold storage when desperation outweighed morality. Kale hadn't expected to wake again. Not after the Concord collapse. Not after the surrender. He'd gone into cryo to be forgotten, a relic buried under ice and data, his name erased, his legacy sealed beneath clearance codes and redacted reports. But Earth had cracked open a vault when the aliens reached Soul's Edge. He hadn't spoken a word since thawing. The others from his unit were long dead, the last generation of pure analog warfare. They had trained without drones, hunted without AI, memorized terrain by feel and shadow. Where modern soldiers relied on satellites, Kale trusted wind, temperature, timing. He used a bolt-action rifle, handmade and heavily modified, its parts polished like bone, its barrel tuned for the planet's thinner atmosphere. There was no digital readout, no guidance system, just iron breath and instinct. He lined up the shot. 2 seconds of stillness passed. Exhale. Fire. The officer's head snapped back, a dark mist blooming from the exit wound. Before the body hit the ground, Kale had already chambered the next round, shifted 2 degrees, and fired again. Another alien collapsed, a shot through the throat that severed both communication and command. The remaining patrols scrambled for cover, unsure of where death had come from. They fired blindly into the mist, energy bolts scorching stone, but their panic betrayed them. One ran toward the ridge. Kale waited, letting the moment stretch. The target hesitated behind a wall. Kale adjusted, fired, and silence returned. He didn't move. Not yet. Movement drew eyes. Sound invited sensors. Patience was a predator's virtue, and Kale had learned long ago that a sniper wasn't just a killer. He was a ghost shaping the battlefield. Every shot shifted the enemy's path. Every corpse whispered, You are not safe. An hour passed before he slid backward down the slope, disappearing into shadows and rubble. His presence left no trace. No heat, no radio frequency. Just death, clinical and unexplainable. Back in the ruins of an old transport hub, Kale dismantled his rifle piece by piece, cleaning each with methodical care. His hands moved without thought, muscle memory forged over decades. A faded photograph was tucked in the inner lining of his pack. A woman and a boy, smiling against the backdrop of Earth's last spring. He didn't look at it. Not today. The coalition was adapting. They had begun deploying sensor arrays across the sector. Orbital thermal scans swept the valleys. Static drones buzzed through ravines, programmed to detect movement under camouflage. Kale had already destroyed 6. But the 7th was smarter. It hovered out of reach, scanning in wide pulses, learning from his predecessors. He couldn't afford to miss. He took position 2 kilometers from the forward coalition outpost, using an abandoned rail tunnel as cover. From here, he could see the command antenna, a spindly tower laced with blinking lights and shielding plates. Guarded, reinforced, but vulnerable if he aimed high enough. He lay motionless for 13 hours, unmoving as the wind shifted and night fell. At 3:12 Standard Planetary Time, the drone passed overhead. Kale fired once. The round punched through its guidance ring and detonated the power core midair. The drone exploded like a sun flare, showering the compound in sparks. Confusion spread across the comms. Coalition voices panicked, searching for threats that didn't appear on sensors. They never found the shooter. He had already moved. The next morning, alien corpses were discovered inside a fortified control center, each struck in a non-lethal point, immobilized but alive long enough to see the sniper's calling card etched onto a wall in human script. 1 scope. 1 ghost. Strategist Ikril studied the footage with silent frustration. She had underestimated this enemy. This wasn't a glitch in a war. It was a tear spreading across their psychological fabric. Every patrol now second-guessed shadows. Soldiers wore extra shielding to no avail. Even the war chiefs refused to stand near windows or on balconies. "It's not the body count," her advisor murmured. "It's the doubt." Ikril's expression tightened. Doubt kills discipline. Fear corrodes unity. This human must be erased. They issued a direct bounty on the sniper. 50,000 credits, dead or alive. 10 elite trackers were dispatched into the sector, outfitted with optical decoys and stealth suits designed to confuse primitive eyes. They moved like phantoms, their armor tuned to mimic the environment. Kale had watched them enter from a northern ridge through the lens of a scavenged coalition scope. He marked their positions with soft pencil scratches on his map, studying the way they walked, how they grouped, which one lagged behind. He didn't take the shot. Not yet. He wanted them to feel hunted. One by one, they would. As dusk bled into the city, Kale cleaned his barrel once more, staring into the void where Earth had once hung in the sky. He didn't know if anyone was left alive back home, but he knew what fear looked like. He saw it now in alien eyes, the same wide, twitching stares he remembered from civilians fleeing during the first orbital strikes. Back then, he had been helpless. But now he was the warhead, and he had only just begun. Kale Maddox adjusted the sling of his rifle as he stepped over the twisted skeleton of what had once been a coalition dropship. Its hull was blackened, its wings folded like broken limbs. Ash and bone crunched beneath his boots. The ruins smelled of scorched metal and burned ozone, but beyond that, there was something more profound in the air: absence. No drone hum, no foot patrols, no distant artillery, just wind. They were retreating. Not because of losses, not because of Earth's technology, but because of him. A single human sniper had changed the calculus of war. Word of his precision had seeped into the coalition's military network like a virus, unspoken in command briefings but etched into every soldier's breath. They called him Ghost now, not as mockery but in fear. Patrol formations had shifted. Standard tactics had crumbled. Officers stayed off balconies. Windows were welded shut. The war machine slowed, not from damage, but from paranoia. Kale didn't smile at the irony. He had never been one for symbolism. He moved with the wind and left only corpses and confusion behind. Other human cells began to notice the change. At a resistance outpost buried in the canyon ravines of Isra, for Commander Rourke leaned over a cracked holomap, studying enemy movement reports. He noticed something peculiar. Supply convoys rerouted, air cover withdrawn from key zones, and entire sectors abandoned overnight. The only common factor: each area had been within Kale's operational radius. "He's shifting the front," Rourke muttered. His lieutenant raised an eyebrow. "One man." Rourke nodded. "One ghost." They hadn't seen him in person, but they saw the ripples. Every time he struck, human units pushed forward. Every time he moved, alien morale crumbled. The Coalition's neural-sync troops, once machines of efficiency, now questioned every shadow. Ambushes failed. Officers hesitated. Discipline fractured. Kale never operated alongside the resistance. He didn't need to. His presence was enough to anchor 100 human advances without firing a single bullet. He kept moving. In the crumbled cathedrals of Virulon, he spent 4 days motionless beneath shattered stained glass. From there, he ended a general's career with a single shot that shattered a man's chest plate. In the fog-choked marshes of Tarsus, he lured a recon team with a trail of spent casings, only to erase them before they ever spotted the glint of his lens. But it wasn't just death he dealt. Kale had learned that fear could travel farther than a bullet. He began leaving marks, subtle signs that he had been there. A snapped twig pointed toward a sniper's nest. A bloodied shell casing set beside an untouched meal. The Coalition's most seasoned troops found themselves sleepless, checking corners in their dreams. One alien squad self-terminated after believing they were surrounded, even though Kale hadn't even been in the region that week. The war was being fought in their minds now. Inside the War Council chamber aboard Ascendancy Prime, strategist Icru slammed a fist against a hollow display. The projection of Sector 17K glitched and flickered beneath her glare. "He's turning our army into prey," she hissed. The advisors remained silent. She gestured sharply. "Deploy the Erasure Unit. Signal Protocol Nemesis. I want every inch of that sector burned, leveled, and choked with drones. I don't care if we scorch the planet. Find him." And so they came. 12 hunter teams, cloaked in adaptive camouflage, outfitted with quantum sensors, their minds linked into a collective consciousness. They swept through the valleys like wolves, armed with weapons that could track heartbeat shifts from a kilometer away. Kale didn't run. He waited. The first team vanished without sending a signal. Days later, the second went silent. The third left behind a single corpse, eyes wide, helmet removed, a bullet clean through the neck. On a wall near the body, scrawled in a strange blend of English and alien glyphs, was a single phrase: "I don't hunt. I wait." The Coalition stopped broadcasting updates on the Erasure Unit's progress. Kale began targeting infrastructure next. Fuel lines, relay nodes, power cells, each hit without warning. Each strike conducted with mechanical grace. The alien command couldn't predict his movements because there was no pattern. He didn't follow logic. He followed pressure points. He knew the nerves of war and how to pinch them until the whole beast collapsed. They tried to adapt. They failed. One alien commander attempted to emulate human sniping tactics, stationing marksmen in towers, adjusting for wind manually. Kale killed him in order of rank, starting with the highest. The last shot wasn't fatal, just a message. The wounded alien was found curled against a wall, muttering about an eye in the storm. Human command began to whisper the impossible. What if this war could be turned? Not with fleets, not with legions, but with fear. In a rare intercepted transmission, Kale's name was finally spoken aloud by alien tongues. "We must neutralize the sniper," said Icru. The reply came not from her advisors, but from a council elder whose voice crackled with age. "You don't neutralize the wind. You endure it, or you move." The council moved. Entire sectors were abandoned overnight. Cities fell not from siege, but from surrender. When Kale reached the outskirts of Coalition Base Theta 9, he found it empty, deserted. Buildings still warm, meals half-eaten, lights blinking across abandoned corridors. He walked through it in silence. There was no glory in this, no triumph. He was not a hero. He was a consequence. Before leaving, he placed a single bullet on the command desk. No engraving, no note, just wait. By now, the myth had outgrown him. They said he could shoot through walls, that he could hear your heartbeat from miles away, that he didn't need a rifle anymore, that the rifle was afraid of him. Kale sat on a ridge that night, looking toward the horizon where alien ships lifted off and vanished into the clouds, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind. He exhaled. The wind carried it. The Coalition's last high commander arrived under the cover of dusk, flanked by 2 gunships and an escort of elite guards. His name was High Strategos Velnerkrin, and he bore the weight of 22 campaigns on his crimson shoulders. Where others trembled at whispers of the human ghost, Velner sneered at the fear infecting his ranks. He did not believe in phantoms. He believed in dominion. The plan was simple. A morale rally on the forward line, a speech carved from ancient war codes, and then a public display of strength, an orbital bombardment to erase the ruins where the sniper was last sighted. It would show the troops that fear was just a story, that death could be commanded like any other soldier. But Kale Maddox had been listening. He intercepted the encrypted Coalition transmission days earlier. It wasn't difficult. Most alien signals still relied on pulse code synchronization, easy to decode once you understood their cadence. He tracked the coordinates, studied wind patterns, scouted elevation points, marked fallback paths, and then he waited. From the peak of a shattered comms tower 3 kilometers away, Kale lay beneath a thermal cloak, buried in cold dust and silence. His rifle, cradled against his shoulder like an extension of his own bones, was already aimed. Through the scope, he saw Velner step onto the raised platform, flanked by his honor guard. The alien's voice echoed across the camp, distorted by the metallic timbre of his translator. His words were confident, booming, a sermon of strength and inevitability. Troops stood stiff, not in reverence but in fear of appearing weak. Kale adjusted his scope, tracking Commander's skull. The shot would have to thread through layers of shielding, distorted fields, and the interference of the ship's active jammers. One chance, one breath. Wind, south-southwest, 14 knots. Distance, 3,112 meters. Angle, 3 degrees above flat. Compensation, 1 click left. He exhaled and fired. The bullet cut through the world like a whisper through cloth. It passed unnoticed by sensors, invisible to automated defenses. Velner's words faltered mid-sentence. For half a second, nothing happened. Then his head jerked back, a blossom of iridescent blood misting the air. His body folded backward, lifeless before it touched the platform. Panic didn't begin with screams. It began with silence. The guards froze. The crowd didn't react. For a breathless moment, no one understood what had happened. And then the realization struck like lightning. Chaos erupted. Soldiers shouting, gunships scrambling, scanners flaring to life. But it was already too late. Kale was gone. He had slipped down the tower's rear, vanished into collapsed sublevels beneath the ruins. His extraction plan was silent, untraceable, and perfectly timed. Every footstep calculated. Every second accounted for. His trail disappeared into the wind before the first drone could launch. News of Velner's death traveled faster than his corpse reached the medical bay. Across the sector, alien commanders issued full retreat orders. Units scrambled for evacuation zones. Supply lines were abandoned. Unarmed vehicles barreled through craters and valleys in blind panic. They didn't wait for orders anymore. They fled instinctively, like animals escaping a predator they could not see. Coalition Central Command tried to downplay it. They issued statements: technical malfunction, internal sabotage, structural failure. But the troops didn't buy it. They'd seen the aftermath too many times. One shot, one body, no trace. It was the same ghost. Always the same ghost. Resistance cells surged forward, reclaimed territory without firing. In some zones, they walked into command centers and found them empty, still humming with power, tea still warm in half-drunk mugs. Entire cities left behind. No defenders. Just silence and the lingering dread of being watched. At the edge of one such city, Kale stood beneath a fractured statue of a long-forgotten coalition founder. The head had been broken off in the early days of the war. Now, pigeons nested in his hollow eyes. Kale set his rifle down at the base of the pedestal. Cleaned, oiled, untouched since the final shot. He didn't need it anymore. The war was not won through force. It had been won through fear, through precision, through the terrifying idea that a single human with a piece of metal and patience could unravel an empire built on superiority. He walked away without ceremony. Later, children of the liberated cities would tell stories that he disappeared into forests, that he returned to Earth to sleep again beneath frozen soil. Some claimed they saw him still, watching from rooftops, glimpsed only in reflections. In time, his rifle was recovered and placed in a museum on Mars. A plaque beneath it read simply, "One bullet changed the war." Imagine the ones he didn't fire. Years passed. The galaxy healed. But in the training fields of new alien recruits, when instructors spoke of overconfidence, they spoke of the ghost. When rookies joked about human warfare, veterans fell quiet. And when high command drew up plans for future invasions, they always included one unexplained contingency line in the margin. Factor in the possibility of the sniper.